Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And we just ran through the Speed Force to give you a review and recap of The Flash Season 3, Episode 3, Magenta. So be warned, there will be full spoilers on this episode of The Flash, so if you haven't watched it yet, you might want to come back later. Here's a real quick recap of this week's episode. Barry and Iris decide to go on their very first date. Then we meet Magenta, who accidentally kills her father, but then makes everybody think that a lamppost did it. Jessie Quick and Harry Wells show up from Earth 2, and we find out that Jessie has speed powers, which makes Wally West real jealous, even though Joe West doesn't want Wally to have speed powers. We learn that Magenta has been sent by Alchemy, and even though Magenta has a split personality, she still wants to be a really good girl. Until it all leads with a climax where the Flash has to team up with Jessie Quick, proving to Harry Wells that Jessie having speed powers is a good thing, and he decides to give her a costume of her own that kind of looks like the costume straight from the comic books. And the Flash crew send Magenta on her merry way. They don't kill her, they just send her away for good. So let's wrap a little bit about what we liked and didn't like in this episode, starting in the order of the episode. First off, Barry and Iris go on their first date, and I thought it was really cute because they were both nervous, and also Barry was doing this thing where he kept switching his outfits, which actually reminded me of the most recent issue of Justice League number 6, I believe, where Barry Allen's going on a date with Jessica Cruz, the new Green Lantern, and he keeps changing his outfit as well. I think a little bit of clever simpatico there.
Nice, really nice. I liked that date a lot. I thought it was really cute. I'm not a big West Allen person, but I think they really earned it with this scene, which shot in a restaurant that we see in Arrow sometimes.
Yes, we have seen that restaurant in Arrow before. Another thing I enjoyed about this episode was that Jessie Quick and Harry Wells have returned, and Jessie Wells, we finally get confirmation that she has speed powers. We acknowledge that episode from last season where Wally and Jessie get hit with the dark matter, and Wally's kind of jealous of Jessie. Okay, first of all, I know you are a big Jessie Quick fan.
I am.
How awesome is it that she finally has her powers?
It is so awesome, and it's so satisfying, and there's a really interesting undercurrent throughout this episode because there is romantic tension between her and Wally, which I'm a big fan of. I can't wait to see that play out. There's really interesting parallels because Wally doesn't like that she has speed, and he doesn't. Her dad's trying to keep her safe. Barry's trying to keep her safe, and she says, whoa, if I weren't a girl, would you still be trying to protect me? It's a nice parallel to what we saw Supergirl do at the beginning of her season last season. I just really like seeing Jessie Quick. She was awesome. So awesome.
Well, it's really cool that we finally see her because, as any Flash comic book fan knows, Jessie Quick was actually Wally West's replacement to replace him as the Flash.
Yes, she was.
Not Bart Allen Impulse, and Barry Allen was dead at the time. It was Jessie Quick, and she had a really cool, very great inspired costume. Let's quickly touch on Magenta and the fact that Magenta was this. Also, she was a person with powers from the previous timeline, but also a split personality, and also her dad was a cliche. I did not like Magenta at all.
I didn't like Magenta, Frankie Kane at all either. I think when you have a character who's supposed to be in his mid-20s and he's actually like closer to his late 20s, and then you put him up against an actual 18-year-old, not only does it, you can tell that he has more experience acting than her, but it makes him look really old compared to her. And then like, they take too many stereotypes, like she's a foster kid with a mental illness,
a runaway,
and she's been abused by someone in a previous timeline.
And her father was a cliche hick somehow.
Yeah, but they live in a city. Like, I think they were trying to do something really good, and they just stacked too many factors on top of it.
Well, this will layer into the next thing. We got a little bit of conversations of one thing that I like was Wally and his dad talking, having the dad cop speeches. Now, you brought up Magenta. I brought up Magenta. Let's talk about it. We have Magenta and her father, Jessie and her father, Wally and her father. All kids with powers, or powers at certain points. But all like clashing against each other. Sometimes the villain is very unrememberable, really unrememberable. Let's move on to the end fight. Jessie Quick gets to run for the first time with Barry Allen. We get Harrison Wells, as he says to every speedster in the show, run, Jessie, run. I think whenever Wally's going to run, he's going to say, run, Wally, run. I think when Cisco finally vibes, he's going to be like, or vibes, with a full suit instead of his mini suit from last week, he's going to say, vibe, Cisco, vibe. I think that's Harrison Wells' kind of thing. Now, I did think that it was a little lame that there was a tornado to hold up the tanker, but I get it. When you have a speedster that can run, there's only so many things you could do with it. But I do love that Jessie was smart enough, because I was worried they were going to go cliche with this, and that the younger hero was going to be like, no, I can take on the bad guy. No, younger hero, you don't know what you're doing. I'm glad that Jessie was smart enough, and I love that because Jessie Quick's a very smart character from the comic books. I love that Jessie Quick was smart enough to be like, yo, I'll just do the running in circles, Flash. You go take on the villain.
Yeah. It's nice not only to see them pair up, but to see her be really, really capable. And it's just fun. It's fun to see a new speedster, because most of the new speedsters we've seen have been baddies. So it's cool to see that we can have them work like co-op with the Flash. It's really satisfying.
There's also something that is kind of hinted in that scene. If Jessie Quick can run in that circle and keep that ship afloat as much as the Flash is she on an equal speed with Barry?
I will say, given her lack of training, maybe she's a better speedster.
Maybe so. Well, see, because the interesting thing is, okay, if she was hit with the dark matter from last season, maybe she absorbed Barry's speed from last season, so maybe she already has a leg up on Barry. Maybe she didn't start at like, oh, I can barely break the sound of speed of sound. Maybe I'm already double, triple that. Yeah. Couldn't say speed of sound. Then we get to the end where Harrison Wells names her and gives her a super suit. And for a comic book fan like myself, I thought that was such a great moment. I love that scene together with all of them. Notice they did not show the full suit, because I don't think they've built it yet.
Yeah, we also didn't see her get in the suit.
No, I think it's one of Grant Gustin's suits that has been painted. Because I think they're gonna wait to build her suit until she finally actually is going to wear it, because I have a feeling we won't see Jessie Quick actually suit up until the mid-season, probably the crossover is my prediction.
I think that's a pretty good call. It is satisfying just to see it, because it does look like the comic book suit.
Yes, it does.
And not all small and big screen adaptations really look like what they're derived from, so it's just cool to be like, oh, that's the costume that I've seen for so long.
Now let me ask you this. Jessie Quick in the comic books had a lot of different costumes.
Yes.
What costume do you want to see the most?
I actually really want to see her Liberty Bell costume.
Really?
I do, because that's a really interesting tie-over that she has. She's a character who, in the comics, is the daughter of two very famous heroes, and she takes on her mother's mantle as Liberty Bell, but her Liberty Bell has the little speedster lightning in it, and I think it's something that could make her really different and set her visually aside from the other speedsters in that universe, and there's not enough blue in that show, so I would really like to see that one.
Now we're going to move into our rating and predictions for the next episodes of The Flash and for their rating for this episode. So Ashley, out of a scale of 1 to 5 Flash lightning bolts, what would you give this episode of Magenta?
Well, since we can't do half a lightning bolt, because that's not fair to anyone, I'm going to give it a mere 2 lightning bolts. I think the stuff that developed the mythology of the world, especially with Jessie and Harry, was really, really satisfying, but I think the overall plot was kind of lacking, so I'm going to give it 2.
I agree. I'm also going to give it 2 lightning bolts, because this is very indicative of past Flash episodes where just the villain doesn't matter. Same with Arrow. Same with Smallville. It was a big problem Smallville had in its first 3 or 4 seasons. Like, where just the villains don't matter. It's just because we need a villain every week, we're going to do a villain. I'm going to throw this out there to the Flash writers. We've seen 5 seasons of Arrow now. We've seen 3 seasons of The Flash. You know, sometimes you don't need a villain in an episode.
Whoa.
Just throwing it out there. Sometimes your hero doesn't have to fight a bad guy just because it's a superhero show. Just throwing it out there, because I would rather just see that and it's a day in the life of like Barry just like maybe rescuing people from car crashes or natural disasters. Then he just has to punch a really dumb villain in the face, because I'm sorry, Magenta, you're a really dumb villain. Now let's make some predictions for future episodes of The Flash. Ashley, based on this episode, do you have any future predictions for The Flash?
I do, based on something that was said. We know that Barry got his powers in an accident in a high-stress environment. Jessie says that she got her speed in a stressful environment. So I think we're going to see Wally make a return to street racing, because, again, to make that parallel to Speed, and that something is going to happen, he's going to be in an accident, and that's when we're finally going to see him run Wally run.
Interesting. Now, I want to bring up a theory that you said to me before the recording, off air, that I think is a really cool theory. I want to put out there and give you mad credit for you. You said at one point when we were watching the episode that you thought that Wally might go to Dr. Alchemy.
Yes.
And get Dr. Alchemy to give him his powers. Now, I think that is fascinating. And what a dark turn for Wally West. Now, do you now thinking now that we're after the episode, that is not going to happen?
I'm not sure because Dr. Alchemy is sort of an interesting beast if you know anything about the comics. So I think it depends on how desperate Wally gets because right now he's pretty desperate.
He's pretty desperate. He would go to Dr. Alchemy.
He would if he could figure out where to find him. So I could also see Julian kind of coaxing him in that direction if our idea that they're maybe the same person actually turns out to be true. I would also really like to see that.
Nice. My prediction for the next episodes of The Flash is something that we know the next episode is called The Rogues, and we know that Dr. Alchemy's going around town, he's giving powers to people like that's a kid in a candy store. I think that we're going to meet some new rogues that are given their powers by Dr. Alchemy because they had powers in the previous timeline. I think maybe that's how we're going to see Mirror Master.
Nice.
Maybe that's how we're going to see the Top. I don't know exactly everybody is going to be revealed in the episode because, again, we don't watch the next week trailers because we don't like to be spoiled. So I think that some of our classic Flash rogue villains from the comic books are going to get their powers from Dr. Alchemy because they had them in the Flashpoint timeline. We gave you some interesting theories, so we want to know down in the comments which of our theories do you think is right, Dr. Alchemy, or crazy, crazy rogues, guys. So let us know down in the comments and hit us a like while you're down there in the comments.
All right, I'm gonna go and lay in the road for a while.
No. You don't need speed powers. You need to stay here and you hit subscribe just like everybody else out there because we're gonna do a new Flash video every single week.
But I could just go lay down in traffic really quick and it'll just take care of
No,
everything.
you need to come back in here because also if you're gonna stick around, you need to check us out on Patreon because we have all kinds of exclusive stuff over there like exclusive podcasts and exclusive videos.
Yeah, but what if you came and laid down in the traffic with me?
Oh, sure, I'd do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's
Let us know down in the comments if you'd like us to lay down in traffic.